Hey there, everyone. I'm Emily A. Hay, the founder of Hey There Social Media. Welcome to our guest speaker social media video series, where I interview incredible women who are work-life integrators. Work-Life Integration Nation is about living every moment intentionally, bringing together your professional responsibilities and your personal choices into one with synergy. I think of it as a way to design your day, to really design your life. It allows you to be present and fulfilled, not overwhelmed and not lacking focus. So with that, we welcome you to Work-Life Integration Nation. You are a mom, you are someone that wears many hats. And so I'm excited to have you chat today a little bit about your work-life integration journey.
I think it was just out of necessity to kind of create more of a balance within my life. I think I was sharing, I did have a retail store in downtown St. Pete, and that was great. It really filled a need for me to have a purpose outside of the home. Working outside of the home. And then it got to the point where I was, like you said, as moms, we kind of wear all these hats, and I was juggling all these balls and trying to keep them up in the air. And while each of those things individually, being a single mom, working outside, having my own business, and then also I kind of manage, I guess, the careers of my two kids. They're up and coming race car drivers too, like their dad. And so that was really starting to take over. So each of those three things I'm very passionate about individually, but I think they were all starting to meld together with just, me getting stretched and pulled in so many different directions that it wasn't really none of that was bringing me joy anymore. So I really felt like I needed to kind of pivot and make a change. So I decided to close the store last summer, and then really just focus on, my kids and their journey, and which is like, another full-time job with what they're doing in their activities, and especially in the racing world. So I was fortunate enough to be able to kind of make that change and do it. And, but it's just about finding balance, I think. And so, as moms, I think we put so much pressure on ourselves internally. Also, there's a lot of external pressures, but I think just trying to find the balance and what works for you, and kind of, giving yourself a break from time to time and not thinking you have to do it all. I think sometimes we have that perception, like we have to do it all, and we have to do it all really well. So
Yes.
this is one of my oldest here, my 11-year-old.
Hello. Thank you for popping in to say hi. You're welcome to stay. Mom is busy at work.
No, not yet, Susie. That's your miss. Okay, I'll be right up. Okay. I'm stealing his iPad, so that's why he's like coming to check on me. Mom, when can I have it back?
I love it. See, it all comes together.
That's all right.
Love it. So a couple quick things you said there, Susie. Balancing wasn't feeling like it was working, right? Like you were trying to do two things separately and personally. That's why I get really excited about the integration concept. Then I don't feel like I'm failing at either one thing. So
yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I think so. And it's, it's that whole catch-22, or that, where, when I was at my business running it and kind of being in the store, I felt guilty about not, having the time to do, some of my kids' activities or things like that. And then the opposite, when I was with them, it's like, well, it should really be, because you're, I'm trying to grow this business and run this business, but also it's like being a mom and being kind of an example to them, or just like a manager for their activities and their racing. It was a lot. So I think, it's been such a breath of fresh air to kind of like, okay, let's decompress, let's kind of regroup, and know that like there's always going to be something that you have to do, right? I think I'm the kind of person very task driven. So I'm like, if I make the list, I want to check off the list. So it's like, I was having all these things, like it's like for every two things like I checked off, it was like 10 more that I was adding on. So that was another thing, kind of having to learn, like, listen, just do what you can. And, if there's a day where it's like I'm overwhelmed, I've got 50 million emails to respond to, but my kids want to go to the beach at summer, like, okay. And I don't know, I just think that just letting yourself and allowing yourself to feel like you don't have to do everything, and you're sacrificing the fun stuff too. And I'm a single mom too, so I know like I don't have a partner to kind of offload all the work and that kind of thing with them, at least. It's a little bit different that way. So I've really had to kind of give myself some slack and cut myself some slack, and just be like, listen, I'm doing what I can, and having fun with it. I think that's the biggest thing, is really getting back to the joy of like what I was doing.
You literally, you hit the nail on the head. As I think about what does work-life integration mean to you as a person, it's literally everything you just said. It's not feeling stretched. It's not feeling the overwhelm. It's also, I relate as a fellow, do you consider yourself a type A person? I personally do. It's setting a realistic expectation so that no matter what otherwise you're always going to feel like you're falling short. So I'm hearing so many things that have led to basically a more sense of fulfillment from you.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? Is I think that, I think I shared earlier with you too. It's like I had this really, I come from a PR background, so I was always, it's from motorsports, so I was very involved and very, I traveled a lot on the circuit and just was busy, busy, busy all the time. So you kind of get used to that environment and thriving like that. So you're thinking like, if you're not doing 50 million things, like then you're like not being productive. And then it's like, oh my God, then you're stressed about that. And it's like, okay, so when I got pregnant and had kids, I stopped working, outside the home. And I really felt that desire and that need. I really felt that longing. And then, I think you mentioned, obviously my husband passed away about almost 9 years ago. And so I felt it even more to kind of set an example for my kids. I wanted them to see me, having a purpose to go and work every day and an environment like that, more of a traditional work setting. And then that just kind of turned into like just being too much with all of their activities and trying to run the store. And like I said, having all these balls up in the air and not really feeling like I was doing any one of them well, and they weren't really bringing me joy anymore. And so I think and I think, that need to have purpose outside of the home, it kind of switched around to like, listen, there's a lot of fulfillment in being a mom and being able to stay home and work and figure out how I can have like kind of the best of both worlds. And, being just a stay-at-home mom or being just a mom it's a lot. So I really kind of had to shift my mindset, but then I'm fortunate enough to be able to kind of bring those two things together. So I can be home with my kids, but also I'm, busy working on just kind of managing their journey, to becoming, elite, like, at the top level of their racing, the racing circuit, like their dad. So, and it's kind of let me use my skills, my PR skills again, and kind of in that marketing role, although things have changed a lot. So social media, it was just on the brink when I kind of stepped away. So I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot there to kind of, bring me up to speed with all of it, but it's been really fun and, and just enjoying it and enjoying my time with them for sure. And in a more just like relaxed, not stressful environment.
Oh, Susie, it's like you're a psychic. The next question I was about to ask about what are some of the positive results you've seen, but you've literally talked on so many of them, and so many of them resonate with me. And I remember in reading one of your media hits about your store that one of the reasons, I'm sure it was a tough decision, as you said, to decide to put it on pause, not close forever, but just a pause ambition.
Yeah.
But you did have a time sensitivity with your boys, so I imagine that's been a very positive result. That you are capitalizing on the time you have with them right now while they're young.
Yeah. And just, if I'm really candid, Emily, like one step further to that, like, they were babies when my husband passed away. And so they were like 7 months old and 2.5 years. So I feel like I kind of lost some of those years with them because, you're just kind of in survival mode at that point, right? I was like, what, it's just like, whoa, my whole life kind of changed in an instant. And so, you kind of I was just status quo, moving along, making sure everything, obviously they're fed, they're clothed, all those kind of things. But I really felt like, I don't want another 5 years to go by or whatnot, where I'm like, oh my gosh, they're out of the house, they're 18. And it's like, And so that was really heavy on me too. I wanted to really be present with them and then really enjoy these next few years. And it's such a little segment of time when you think about just our lifetime, and I just didn't want to look back and have any regrets and be like, I should have done this or I should have done that. And so just really being able to reconnect with them and on a different level and have them see me, in a different role. Now, it is hard sometimes, I think the challenges, there's all the great benefits of having, being, work-life integration, but
yes,
the challenges, I think, sometimes are, being able to carve out that time where you're like, okay, let me just focus on work and not getting interrupted and things like that, where you think you're just like, I just need like 5 minutes to myself. It's, on this phone call or send this email. So, but you get into routine and you kind of, you figure those things out. But yeah, I think it was a no-brainer to kind of like you said, put it on pause. It's not completely done forever. I can always go back, but I'll never get this chunk of time with them again, and I can't believe my oldest is already 11, my youngest is 9. And so, yeah, I just want to really soak in these next few years with them.
That's so awesome to hear. And again, thank you for being candid on some of the struggles. And I mean, I'm over here saying work-life integration and avoid overwhelm and be fulfilled. But I absolutely have those days. My team has those days. We have days where we text each other and just say, I can't even right now. So I'm going to ask one of you to help me. But knowing that there's that room, I think personally for us has been a way that we deal with some of those struggles. So if there's any other tips on the struggle side of just maybe a way that you've met some of the challenges, anything at all, we'd love to hear.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit too. It's just like, I'm not great at it, but it's like asking for help or just knowing that like, okay, like, because I like I said, I feel the need to check things off and put them away and like, that's it. And sometimes not how it works, and I think people are, forgiving, and especially now with just the way our kind of world is working, and people are working from home, and you've got so many different pressures from outside, inside. And so I think if you're just, real with people and connect with them and just be like, yeah, hey, I didn't get to that today, but I'll promise the next couple of days I'll get you that proposal, or I'll get you this or whatever. I think, I have to remember that it's like, it's okay. Like I don't have to get everything done all at once, unless it's like a life or death situation, like it can wait. And that's hard for me just with my personality, because I like to kind of get things done so that I can like, okay, now I can relax. There's nothing on my mind, but you just have to really prioritize things and just know like that some days you're going to get through, maybe 2 things. Some days it's going to be 10 and you're going to feel like a rock star. So be like, yeah, I love that. But on the days when you don't, it's okay too, because maybe you had an amazing experience with your kid and you were able to take some time and, sit down and read a book with him, or, go to the park or whatever. And even though it feels like you're not like being productive and you're not, getting things checked off the list, you're really creating those moments that like, you don't have a lot of time, as they're growing. And so just being gentle with yourself and forgiving with yourself if you have, days like that too.
Literally breathing a sigh of relief from you.
So it's okay. Just take a pause sometimes, Emily.
Yes, especially what we all went through with COVID, of course. And so it was good to remind people that every day, right? All the gals online were all saying, like, give yourself the permission and be gentle to yourself. And I kept advice, but couldn't quite take it.
For sure. No. And I'm like, I'm saying it. It's like, Susie, take your own advice. Like, like okay, it's easy to say, but it's not always easy to apply. And like, with COVID, like you said, it's like I had to switch into the role of being homeschool teacher for like 2 months. And that was like, it started off great. We're like, okay, yeah, we're self-starters and we're going to sit there and like do our work. And and then in the middle of it, I was just like, and it's like, okay, we didn't get the assignment done today. Like, I'm going to send a note to your teacher. And it's like, we're not in a traditional school setting. I'm not a teacher. I was candid with them and I was like, listen, this isn't my thing. I don't want to be a teacher. I fight with my kids when they have like a page of homework to do. So, just kind of being easy on yourself and knowing that it's like, it's all about just kind of trying to see the humor in things too. And that nothing is so incredibly overwhelming or like, life or death, or just, it's going to be fine. We just need to just kind of, pump the brakes a little bit and reset.